First of all, my name is Annette Milbers, and I have been in this industry for a really long time. I started quite young in Kamloops as a single mom and just loved watching on TSN the fitness competitions. I loved watching the girls compete and just had a fire for that. And I thought, well, I'm going to start. So in my early 20s, I started training and taking gymnastics and all the things that I didn't know how to do and competed and won one of my first shows. It was a small show in northern BC, and I won that show and then went on to Toronto to compete. And that's where I met Bob Kennedy. And for some reason, Bob Kennedy come over and talk to me, and he says, you know, Annette, you're a small town girl and you have what it takes. He says, in this industry, stay really real, and that's going to give you longevity. And so I shot the cover of Oxygen magazine, and it was just crazy. This small town Kamloops girl, single mom with 2 babies, and I was in this world all of a sudden. So that's kind of how it started for me, Daniel. And then it's just progressed and grown from there.
You know, that's so crazy. I think we talk about it a lot here on the podcast, to where it's like when you start doing something, you don't always know exactly where it's going to lead, directions it may take you. And for you, was that something that was exciting, that was scary? Did it give you any nerves, thinking like maybe like even imposter syndrome, like I'm just, this person, like you mentioned, I'm just a small town girl. I'm just, I just started doing this, or there's more qualified
Mhm.
people, or did you have like, what was just your feelings going into it, and then having this experience of like having these opportunities, kind of come up?
I think this starts really actually when I was a little girl. I remember being a little girl and sitting in my bedroom window and watching kids play baseball. And I had such a fire in my heart for sport. And I was raised in quite a poor family. So we didn't get those opportunities to play sports. And so, right from a really young age, I would try to do things myself, whether it was going for a run. I remember collecting bottles and buying a Thigh Master so that I could work out at 13. So it's funny, when you are hungry for something, you make it happen. And I think from a very young age, I just wanted to be an athlete so bad that as soon as I was an adult, I just did everything I could to make it happen.
Hmm.
And so, to answer your question, did I have imposter syndrome? Yeah, in a lot of ways I did. But I think for me, I was really lucky enough to meet Bob Kennedy right out of the gate. And at that time, he was it in the industry. He was running Muscle Mag, Oxygen magazine. He was the guy. And out of all these hundreds of girls that had been training and competing for years, he would I have handwritten notes from him where he believed in me. And I think that was really helped me a lot.
Having that desire and that hunger to get what you want, is that something that you feel like is, as you continue to get what you want, do you find that you have to almost have new motivation, or like new, like that fire, it doesn't go out, but do you feel like you almost have to kind of, stir that cauldron a little bit yourself, instead of letting your life do it for you in some senses?
But I do believe that you often have to shift the narrative. It's often shifting the narrative. I just have been a strong believer that if you want to make something happen, you have to work freaking hard to make it happen, but you have to believe that it's possible. And I always like tell my clients now, like, that's my toxic trait. I will have a client come in who's lost his legs in a boat accident. And I'm like, if you want to be in the Olympics, we're going for it. Like, I just don't believe in giving excuses for things. I definitely don't want to dismiss reality, but have this mindset that if you want something bad enough, let's do everything we can to make that happen. And I think that's just a fire that I've had my whole life, and it's never really changed for me.
Getting a taste here and then with opportunities and being able to, kind of build your portfolio of like, this is what I've done in the industry so far. Did you ever start to have like the vision, or maybe did you even start out with the vision of like what you really wanted to achieve? Or was it more like, I just want to put myself out there and I want to achieve something special and do some, really cool stuff? Are you a personal trainer, online fitness coach, or gym owner on the verge of burnout? Are you wanting to grow your fitness business but can't add more hours to your hectic schedule? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today.
I think the industry's changed so much, and it's very much ebbed and flowed. And so with that, so have I. At the beginning, I was only in my early 20s, and I had gone through some personal hardship in my life and was a single mom with these two little babies from this small town. And I just really wanted to be an athlete, Daniel. And I wanted to do something that showed that. And so for me, it was like, I wanted to be on the cover of Oxygen magazine. And so I set out to do that and did that. And then once I did that, I wanted to write for magazines. And then once I did that, so it kind of evolved to the place where over the years, it's just, there's a lot of things I also saw in the fitness industry. Sometimes it was good from far and far from good, right? And so I think as I've grown as a person and as the industry's changed, my goal has been really to help other people just find their own fire, whatever that looks like.
It sounds like you kind of can see yourself in people. And I think that's really what a great coach does, is has a grasp on the psychological side of it too.
You're so right. And I think everybody has their own battles and their own things that they deal with. And sometimes the story's different, but the principle is similar. And I think that's what I really resonate with.
So going from, wanting to be an athlete, and obviously being an athlete is a physical, representation, a physical journey. And then going into, you said doing articles, writing, and even being a coach, like obviously it takes two different, parts of your brain, kind of two different skill sets, two different ways of presenting. Did you have to start to get comfortable with, I guess more of the educational side and more of the informational side of things, more than just the I'm going to go out and do it side?
And I think that's, you mentioned at the beginning, imposter syndrome. I think that's where it really come in for me, because being an athlete and having your own story, no one can really knock you for that because it's your own story and you own it. But when you start being an influence in other people's lives, and it hits a little bit different. You put yourself on a platform where it's easily can be attacked to some degree. And you know what? Sometimes it's easy to play small. It's easy just to train your few clients in your little home gym and just stay there. And so it's really scary to play big and put yourself out there. And so from an educational perspective, I've always been one that just wants to learn, because things are always changing and I always want to be informed. But then too, sometimes we can stand in our own way. And I have done that too, where it's like, you just keep getting educated and educated. At some point, you just have to start sharing what you're learning.
Sometimes I feel like I don't want to share certain things, especially like on more of a public platform, like a podcast or whatever, because I don't want people to think, oh, you're just trying to say that you discovered this, or you're not saying anything that isn't already out there. Like, was that ever a challenge for you?
Not so much, but I feel that I'm more cautious of making sure you kind of try to cross your T's and dot your I's with everything that you're doing, because it is on this platform that's analyzed. So this is a podcast that resonates with me. Like, for example, Dr. Stacy Sims, I love her work. It resonates with me. I speak about her a lot. I mention her a lot. but she's actually quite contradictory to other doctors that are just as educated with a different viewpoint. So I understand why people become extremely overwhelmed in the industry, because coaches, doctors have all these different views. And so you're right. It's like one person says this one could be completely contradictory, but this is my belief system. This is my experience. This is what I coach because it resonates with me. And if it resonates with you, great. And if it doesn't, that's the beautiful thing about being an adult. So, but to your point, it is tricky. It's very scary. I've very much struggled with social media. So that is something that I really struggle with, is putting myself out there. I think it's just learning to, first of all, people are, no matter what they do, they're attacked, right? So I think just understanding that a lot of people can only meet you from where they're at. And I think just realizing people can only meet you with the capacity that they're at. So if they're coming off a certain way, it's beyond our control. It's just where they're at. I try to be really kind with like responding to people on social media. I try to really think of it from a way of not defensive or attack, but that they really just don't know. And I think when I change my narrative around it, it doesn't feel so bad. And then some I just ignore, because you can't help everyone. So
As someone who is influential in someone's, health and fitness, both from a physical and to a mental, way, even though we're not psychologists or psychiatrists, what we do and how we say it and all these things really influences a person's mental state as well. But have you ever, getting into like when you started to help people, did you struggle at all to like try to create like, this is the way that I do things, this is how I'm going to help people? Or for you, how did you kind of create that, or decide like, this is the angle I want to take, or this is the clientele I want to go after?
So I think the biggest thing is it first has to authentically align with me. So if something feels right for me and makes sense for me, then that's kind of how I would gauge that. So for example, when it comes to nutrition, balanced protein, carbs, and fats with all of our meals, and leveling out your blood sugars and those types of things, that makes sense to me. So does it mean that something like keto is wrong? No. If that works for you, that's great. But this is what makes sense to me. And so this is what I coach. And if something works for you differently, that's okay too. But it does make sense for me. And so the way that I coach that, then the podcast that I do to support that, and the doctors that I resonate with to support that. But I think I've had resistance too. I've had clients that don't feel comfortable with certain things and they want to do it their way, and that's okay. I think that when there's resistance, then that's important to listen to.
I think it shows that they at least care, right? Working with someone who does want to maybe switch a few things up, or not necessarily go a completely 180 on what you're talking to them about, but how much and how do you work around like with their wants and work towards, something that they can sustain, but also something that is going to like fit with your ethics too, and fit with like what looks good, I guess, for your brand as well.
So this goes back to meeting people where they are, Daniel. So if I have a client that comes in who's lost quite a bit of weight, for example, a certain way, and so we start working together in the gym and training and building a strong foundation, it'll be gently coaching them as I am working with them on the whole picture. So not necessarily just weight loss, but the whole picture from a wellness perspective, a brain health perspective, longevity, where you see yourself in 5 years. And I find that as I coach, then they may be more open to looking at things differently. But it's really important to do that in a gentle way so that it's progressive. That seems to be the most success. So I have had people that have been kind of stuck in their way of doing things from a nutrition perspective, sometimes for as much as a year or two. And then when they're open and they feel, a lot of times people are like that from a place of fear, or things that they're carrying. And so when they're able to trust you and then they do it different, they know different, they do different. And then all of a sudden their bodies are changing. They're like, I wish I listened to you 2 years ago. But I think that's what's, I mean, beautiful about progress and allowing time and space sometimes as a coach is important.
How do you build that trust in a way that is that's still leading to like what that person wants, obviously, which is results? How do you build that trust in when you're doing things that may not be like a hundred
Mhm.
percent like, you know, this person's not going to go and eat every single meal clean. They're not going to hit maybe a workout every single time, you know, that maybe quote they should, or that you would recommend they do, or they're not going to get the exact amount of sleep. Like, how do you balance those results with um, and like the expectations, I guess, of what they're doing versus what they want, if that makes sense?
Yes, it does. Um, I think when people invest in themselves, right? And just reminding them that when you're investing in yourselves and you've come to someone obviously for a reason, it's important to be open to trying different things. And if they're open to trying even a little bit to start, that's progress. So if someone's really stuck and they're open to starting to move their body or to be open to eating a certain way, that's progress. And so that's how a lot of times they'll start to trust you is one, you're validating their concerns or their fears and you're holding space for that and then giving suggestions to do it differently. And if someone's resistant, they're not going to do it anyways. They're just going to fight you. And when our bodies fight us on something, it's never going to last. So that just never works, or it'll be like a short-term thing and then it doesn't. And so when we really truly come from a place where you want longevity, lifestyle change results, sometimes it does take time for someone to kind of click and get it. And it's as they start to do the little things, even if it's one tool a month, two tools a month. Okay, now I'm looking back after 4 months and the four tools you've given me, I do feel better. So you know what? I do want to try the other tools. So sometimes that's how it looks. I have clients that are all in right away and they're seeing results quickly, but not everyone's like that, and that's okay.
What does that timeline look like just on a general level? I mean, is it something where it's like, all right, you've been doing tool one now for a while, you know, you said a month, but let's say, you know, it gets stretched out to 2 months or 3 months. I mean, how is that something that's more, like, do you have that certain point to where it's like, all right, I can see that you want to do this. Obviously, you're still doing the first thing, you know, where you're doing well on that, but how do you communicate that either like we maybe this investment isn't right yet? Like, do you ever go that route, or how do you, I guess, communicate that like I'm as the coach, like you could be getting so much more out of me. You know, you're paying me X amount, not that it really matters what that is specifically, but like you doing this one thing, maybe you can do this on your own for now until you feel like you can start to do more. And then like you can come back later and we can start to implement, or how do you communicate like, okay, you know, you've been doing good, but you're just not like, you don't want to do more. So there's no sense maybe, or maybe there is some sense in not continuing right now.
Right. So this is why communication is really important, Daniel, because everybody's goals and everyone's metrics look different. So if you were my client and your goal was weight loss, and it was really important for you that your composition is changing, then that's something that we would just continually revisit. So Daniel, when you came to me, your goal was weight loss, and we haven't seen that. So here's some things that we need to do. But some people, Daniel, they're it's wellness. So are they feeling better? Do they have less bloating? Do they have more energy? Are they sleeping better? So it's really important to be really open-minded about how we're measuring those metrics. Sometimes it's not just a number on the scale. Maybe someone hasn't really lost weight in a few weeks, but all of these other things are working. So that's really beautiful too. And then sometimes when those other things are working, then the weight starts to drop.
So, you know, working with someone, to you, is it more of I guess what is that expectation like for and I guess everybody could be different, but in a general sense, like this is where I want to take you. I want to take you from here at the beginning, then we're doing good and we have this kind of like, I don't want to call it maintenance, but we're checking all the boxes regularly. Is there that third step to where it's like, okay, you have been working with me for X amount of time and you're doing great. Now, what is that? I guess if there is a kind of a third section to that relationship.
So again, it would depend what someone's goals are and if those goals are progressing. So what I do find, it depends, like if someone's coming to me and they're a triathlete and we're getting, your nutrition on to do this goal that looks different than someone who's coming with a weight loss goal. So it just really depends where my athlete or my client is at. And I find that a lot of times it's progressive. So if someone comes with weight loss, a lot comes with that as far as mindset, learning how to view nutrition differently, how to eat out, understanding their hormones. It's a big, big learning curve. And I find once someone does lose weight, then it's maintenance and can you challenge your body beyond that? And then is it, so it just depends where each person is at and what they need. Some people are fine to learn those tools in their toolkit and to go on and live a very successful wellness journey. So just really depending on each person.
What would you say is kind of like a general percentage or a round number of like, typically it's X% of people who achieve their first goal and then, start to set more goals down the line versus this person kind of reached that weight loss goal and then they just kind of, they learned, they did all the things well, and then they kind of went on and did their own thing. Are you a personal trainer who wants to scale and grow your business online? Have you been coaching online for years, yet don't know how to incorporate online into your current business model? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today.
In the past, I was very specific to training competitors. And so that's a whole different, that's someone coming, wanting to get ready for stage in this amount of time. It's you eat these macros, this is what you do, they just do it. So it's a very different type of coaching to some extent. And so now I do more lifestyle. I do train athletes for sport quite a bit. But what I'm finding is it's mostly lifestyle. And to your point, a lot of people find it tricky to maintain a lifestyle. It's easier to be, I'm going to Mexico, or I need to get ready for this wedding. Our human brain tends to be very all or nothing. So I just want to be really restrictive and do everything so I look good on the beach here and then I'm going to go back. So I find just because of human nature, it keeps us coaches pretty busy because people seem to really need accountability. And the best coaches in the world, the best athletes in the world have a coach, right? So I like having a coach. It does create that accountability and keeping on track, even if it is a lifestyle.
When you did, coach more competitors, work with more competitors, how would you compare kind of like how you worked and maybe still to this day, how you work with an athlete versus a, just a lifestyle person? Are there, are there some surprising similarities, but maybe some surprising differences as well?
I love that you asked that. I used to be a little bit more of a harder, a harder ass person. And I am that person in my own training. It's just like go in and train hard, no excuses kind of mentality. But I've really softened as a coach, to be honest, not softened as far as not having expectations or not being as strict or disciplined, but just being a little bit more understanding of other factors. And so, for example, I was finding I find training athletes pretty easy actually, because you just tell them what to do and they just do it. But what I was finding is that there's all these other components that affect our wellness. One being trauma in our bodies, and two being hormonal changes. And so for me, I was finding even with athletes sometimes being chronic pain or stuck with certain things or coming off of doing a show, gaining a lot of weight and struggling to get that done. So there was a lot more to it from a emotional perspective and a hormonal perspective than just eat this, do this. And I felt that as a coach, it was important for me to grow and to expand my scope so that I could coach better. And so I went back to school for integrative trauma coaching. I'm in school now for functional hormonal practitioner. And I think those are two really important components to the whole picture of longevity, whether you're an athlete or whether it's lifestyle.
So what is integrative trauma specifically? And then what does the coaching look like behind that?
Whether someone is an athlete or not, or works out or not, integrative trauma coaching is about healing through movement. So somatic therapy. So, and what I was finding is in the gym, sometimes someone would come in with chronic pain or certain movements start bawling. Sometimes we can trap trauma in our muscle and not realize it consciously through our brain, but through movement, there's a bit of a release. So I wanted to have the tools to be able to handle that. And then secondly, having a client come in, being really in tune to which nervous system they're kind of operating out of. Is it their parasympathetic or their sympathetic? So if someone comes in, they're really elevated and anxious and upset and they've been in traffic, I need to meet them there so that I can train them with weights and what I'm doing in the gym, as opposed to sometimes people, when you train them and they're fatigued after, exhausted after, because their nervous system isn't regulated. So it's helped me see where someone is, if they're really tired and low movement when they come in. It's important for me to stretch them and move their spine before we start going hardcore training, or their bodies won't be able to handle it.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
Do you find that it's common for people to be in that similar state very frequently, instead of like today it's this and tomorrow it's that?
Yeah, you're right. So for example, for me, I'm a very high energy, anxiety sometimes person. So I love sprint training, like the harder the better. Let's go lift weights, right? So, and some people operate in a different way. And so if I'm needing to get performance out of someone, I need to meet them where they are to bring them to me. So, and that creates better results from an athletic performance perspective, and then also from a recovery perspective.
Do you incorporate that with like the whole workout?
Okay, so two things, Daniel. So, just with my training in it, I sometimes don't even need to tell you, right? So you come in my client and you're in that parasympathetic nervous system and you just feel kind of exhausted, and say we had a really heavy like training day set for that day, I would start you with some breath work and stretching and spinal mobility and oxygen and blood flow first. So that movement before starting to warm you up, and then see how you are from there. Sometimes a client will come in and I will shift the workout completely and do somatic coaching instead. So it just really depends on each client and where they're at in their journey. And it seems that doing that, like just through breath work, spinal movement, stretching, opening up the body for work, the workout's going to be more effective. It's not, you're not, it's so exhausted after you've really opened up the body, ready to do work.
Is it something too where you can like utilize this and for more than just like working out? Let's say you want to get ready to focus on, writing an article or, get into creating a program for a client. Is this something that you do as well?
That's right. So with integrative trauma coaching, it's for everything. It's relationships, it's shifting the energy, it's regulating the nervous system for relationships, communication. If you work with a lot of people and you're absorbing their energy, what kinds of things can you do through body movement, whether it's shaking your body, certain things that just help regulate our nervous system. If you go into a room and you're absorbing energy, that's you're probably a very empathic person. You're probably very observant. You care a lot about people and you're very sensitive. So you're just the type of person that it's easy for you to absorb that energy. I'm learning so much about this too, Daniel, and always learning. With my understanding is everybody's different in every situation. It's just what your personality, maybe based on your experience in life and who you are as a person, how you regulate your own nervous system, or how do you react or respond to certain situations. So some people can walk into a room and be very empathetic and absorb all of this energy, and then they need to go and have some downtime to fill their cup. Other people need to be more activated. So I think every single person is different based on your makeup and your experiences in life and how you cope in those situations.
Like when it comes to the food side of things for clients, does that play a role in the nutrition, like maybe making better choices in certain moments, or, cravings? Can it kind of play a role in that at all, and how I can kind of manage that? Or does it come alive in that situation?
I think eating nutrient dense foods and fueling our body and setting ourselves up to be able to cope with stress and things like that is really part of the whole picture, just as sleep is really important and movement is really important, and just really coming from a place of honoring and taking care of our bodies. So those are all pieces to that. Is the more that we're absorbing nutrient dense foods, staying hydrated, sleeping, moving our bodies, is really honoring ourselves.
So you said, with that coaching and then hormones, you're really getting into that side of things as well. Is there anything out there right now that you're just like, other than those two, that you're just like really interested in, that you're looking deeper into?
I love absorbing information. I always just want to learn. And those are two things that are really, really interesting to me right now. And they're pieces that are always changing and growing. Like the more that you go down that, there's more to learn. So from the trauma coaching part, there's the next level, which is the MDR work, and just really going down that. Because a lot of times, the way we do things is a trauma response, whether it's hating the gym, not wanting to move. It might be uncomfortable because it's bringing up things in our bodies that don't feel safe. Someone might not want to go into a gym environment because it doesn't feel safe for their nervous system. So there's all of these different pieces to that. And I think just being aware of it just helps to give other options, where, as opposed to like, then that's not for you. Just, can we move differently? Can we look at this differently so that you can still benefit and feel good and grow as a person as we continue in this path of life together?
Do you see a world or a future that is, I guess maybe, I don't know if this is the right word, but like integrates more with our natural needs? So those barriers, some of those trauma things that keep people from doing whatever, healthy habit, going to the gym or eating whatever, or whatever it may be. Do you feel like that there's a future where those things are like integrated more like fluidly into people's lives, so it can should be like we start from this position of advantage, or kind of like position of power in some senses, instead of like getting to where we are and then feeling the need to respond to that by going to the gym, and
Yes.
having to lose weight and having to worry about diabetes or having to worry about mental health. Do you feel like there's ever kind of going to be like a true spot for that?
I hope so. I really, really hope so. I feel that when you know better, you do better. And I think this goes back to even what you said right at the beginning, how the comments on social media and the negativity, it's because people are so as a whole so stuck with the narrative. And I see it like, I'm too old for that is a common one. And that's someone at 40 years old. I'm too old now. I have bad knees now. I like, there's all of these, I can't, and this is how it is. This mentality of society, it's how, like you said, if that's shifted, if the mindset is shifted and we actually do take care of our bodies and we live a different life, I think this beast mode mentality and, like this do it all kind of thing isn't working for us. It's like then we end up responding to that and like, how can we do this differently and still be very successful and work hard, but also listen to our bodies. It's a shift in mentality and mindset is the biggest thing. And I hope so. I feel like there's more awareness around things like this, even the fact that I get to take schooling in this. I feel so blessed, so I do believe that there is more awareness around these things.
As long as we can keep it human-centric, I think then we all have a pretty good shot at this.
I agree. And I think it goes back to when you always, like, it's easy to just get really distracted by all of the things and all of the opinions and all of the stuff. And I think when you just always come back to center, we resonate with truth as human beings. We can fight it. We can do all of these things. But at the end of the day, we really resonate with truth. And our bodies know what we need. We just need to listen.
Appreciate you coming on and, sharing a bit about your journey and what you're doing and how you're doing it. It was really interesting.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you. And I just appreciate the opportunity. And this is what you're doing through your podcast, is creating awareness and talking to different people and different views. And that's so beautiful. So I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. If you want to share anything before we head out, any website, socials, anything like that, you can.
Okay, thank you. My little company is Station Athletics. And I'm Annette Milbers.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.